Hello everyone. Welcome to A Week of Algos, brought to you by Developer Student Clubs, Manipal University, Jaipur. A Week of Algos intends to help you kickstart your coding journey by making you familiar with data structures such as arrays, stacks, queues, trees, etc., taught to you from their real-life applications. We'll have casual talks with our speakers, which will help you figure out how to land up at a top product-based company such as Fang, and later we'll give you tips on how to boost up your LinkedIn profile. We'll be having fun quizzes, post talks, and much more. Today, we have with us Shreya Prasad. Shreya is a third year student at IGDTUW. She's mentored at various events, including Google Coding and Major League Hacking. She is also a GitHub Campus expert and a Mozilla Fest facilitator. Apart from being an expert in her own field, Shreya is very humble and has a very inspiring journey of her own. So please help me in welcoming Shreya Prasad. Over to you, Shreya.
Hi, Kashish. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. So today, the topic of our talk is interview preparation 101 and problem solving based on trees. So today we will learn how to solve questions in an interview, how to manage time, and how to basically ace our interview round. Uh, and After that, I will share my FANG interview experience, and then later on we will learn how to implement a basic binary tree and BST, along with how to approach tree based problems. So now I'm going to share my screen. Thank you everyone for joining us here today. So before starting with the talk, I would like to introduce myself. So hey everyone, my name is Shreya Prasad, and I'm a final year computer science undergrad at IGDTU. As mentioned by Kashish, I'm also a GitHub campus expert and a mentor at Major League Hacking. And last year, I was a Google coding mentor for Circuitverse, and I've recently joined Pep Coding as interview panel member, where I take mock interviews of students who are preparing for their technical interviews. And I'm also an incoming software engineering intern at Bank of New York Mellon. So, what's the agenda for today? So today we are going to learn strategize round wise in our interview, and then I will share my off-campus experiences with FAM companies. Then we will get started with trees, and then finally we will understand how to approach tree-based problems. So before getting started, I want to ask you all this question. So what do you think the interviewer is looking from you? Depends on the position, I think. Okay. So here we are talking about a software engineering position. So this talk is specifically for
Hi
technical
Shreya.
rounds. Hi, Akshay.
I think according to me, an interviewer is looking for an all-rounder personality. Like he or she should be excellent in coding as well. But apart from that, there are other personal life skills and his experience and how easily he handles or she handles the unexpected situations. Actually, that is what an interviewer looks for, the all-rounder kind of personality, according to me.
Definitely, that is a very important point, and thank you, Akshay, for putting it across so nicely. And okay, so how do you fit with the company? Okay, cultural fit. Then problem solving abilities. Yes. So I think you have all answered this question correctly. So yes, the interviewer is looking for all these qualities, which can be summarized in these 5 points. So the first is analytical skills. So here the interviewer is observing like how much help do you need while solving the problem, and how optimal was your solution, and how long did it take you to arrive at a solution. Also, if you are presented with a new problem, a very unique problem, how are you approaching that problem? What are the constraints that you are thinking of, and how are you able to basically decrease your solution space. So that these are the things that the interviewer is looking for under analytical skills. Then we have coding skills. Now that you have, thought of some algorithm or some kind of a theoretical solution or a brute force solution, how well are you able to convert that solution into a reasonable code? And is your code very clean? Is it bug free? And is it covering all the edge cases? So these are the sort of things that the interviewer is looking for under coding skills. Then next we have technical knowledge. Of course, the interviewer is looking for your fundamental computer science knowledge, like OS, DBMS, computer networks, system design, etc. And these questions are normally very basic questions, or you can say intermediate. Like, you don't need to go very deep into these subjects, but they do test your basic knowledge of all these subjects. Next, we have experience slash projects. So this comes under the resume section. Like, in your resume, you must have mentioned some kind of experience or some kind of project that you have done. So on the basis of that project or your experience, the interviewer is able to assess your personality, your development skills, and how well are you able to manage your time in your college. So that is also one of the points that speaks highly about you, depending on your, resume. Then finally, we have culture fit or communication skills. So this is a point that is very much, underrated by people, because every person thinks that if a person is an engineer or they are, a developer, then they don't need to have a great communication skills, because they're going to do is sit behind a computer and just code all day, right? But that is not it, because when you are coding, you also need to communicate that code to the other person. So coding involves documentation, modulation, how clean your code is, how well are you able to communicate it to the interviewer, and also if the interviewer is facing any problems in understanding your code, how well are you able to clarify their questions. So these are the sort of things that the interviewer looks for under communication skills. Now that we understand what the interviewer is looking for, we are ready to strategize for our interview rounds. Round one. So normally we have like 4 rounds, and it can also extend to 5 rounds. That's the case, that happens in Google. But since every company takes around 4 rounds, so we are going to discuss for 4 rounds only. So in the online coding test, either we are going to have 3 coding questions, or we are going to have 4 coding questions, or we are going to have MCQs plus coding questions. So what's the strategy like? How should we like divide our time in such scenarios? So if we have 3 coding questions, so normally the first thing that comes into our mind is that, okay, so there are 3 coding questions, there are 90 minutes, then we should, divide our time into 30 minutes each. No, that is completely wrong. Can anyone tell me why? Why do you think that we should not equally distribute our time in when we have 3 coding questions?
Level of question will
Questions will
increase.
increase. Yes. This is the right answer. This is because easy questions are something that one can, immediately know how to solve them, right? So the time taken to solve that question is merely the typing time. So that can be done easily under 10 minutes. And it's the medium and the hard ones that require some amount of thinking, some amount of, problem solving abilities and from your side. So that's why it is really important to keep sufficient amount of time for medium and hard questions. So that's it for 3 coding questions. Now when we have MCQs plus coding questions, how to approach this type of test? So normally the mindset is that since we have MCQs, so attempt the MCQs quickly, because they can, what we have to do is we have to just select one option, or in case of multiple choice options, we have to just select the options and then we can quickly just complete the section. But in that approach, what happens is that the candidate takes more time than they had anticipated to solve the MCQ section. And as the result, the coding section, they are not able to devote much time to the coding section, which is why they don't score enough marks. And as it is, the number of the marks that is allotted to the MCQ section is like per MCQ is very less as compared to the coding question. So it is very much possible that you might be able to cover like 10 MCQs, and each MCQ has got 2 marks. So you are able to, let's assume that you have answered all of them correctly. So the number of marks that you have achieved right now is 20. But in a coding question, it is very much possible that you might be able to solve it quickly, because since they are giving the coding question along with the MCQ, so the level of the question will not be very high. So that is why it is very much possible that you can complete the coding question easily, and as a result, you can achieve more marks quickly. So this is why we should always start with the coding question, and later on we should go to the MCQ, because MCQs are all about elimination, and we can do that quickly in the last minute itself. But attempting a coding question at the last minute will prove very difficult for you, and it will be a very stressful situation for you as well. So that's why we attempt the coding questions first. Next, we have 4 coding questions. So, the like some questions, some companies do like to ask 4 coding questions. So in that case, the easy question is really easy. Like you just need to spend some time in typing the solution, and in the first attempt, all the cases will be passed. So that's for the easy ones, and the medium ones are not so difficult. So my point in this part is that the questions are not very difficult since the number of questions are more, but the time allocated to each question must be less as compared to the 3 coding question part. So in easy questions, we should complete it in less than 5 minutes. Then we have 2 medium questions that should be completed in less than 15 minutes. Then we have one hard question that is normally of 100 marks that should be completed under 40 minutes. And since we are, and then we will have last 15 minutes spare with us that we can use to debug or to maybe improve our code, because it is very much possible that our code won't cover all the test cases in the first attempt, right? So that is why it is very important to spare some time so that we can analyze our code and see where we can improve or to cover more test cases. So that's it for round 1. Then we have round 2. That is a technical round. The general like format for each company is that first they will start with the introduction, then they can ask something from your resume. So from the resume, the questions can, range from your technical skills that you have mentioned, maybe your projects, maybe your experience. And this is a really good opportunity to demonstrate your strengths, because where the interviewer is looking at how you were able to overcome a particular challenge, and basically show you were able to show your positive skills, your strong skills. So this is a very good opportunity to like sell yourself in a positive manner. uh, okay, so I forgot to uh, explain into introduction. So in introduction, your intro should be kept very small and very precise. Like it should be your introduction should be less than a minute, and it should be very relevant to the role that you're applying for. So in this in this talk, since our discussion is revolving around technical interviews, so your Your introduction should mention your name, your year, and your technical stack, and your interest, plus your expectation with respect to the role. And your introduction is also a very good place to set the tone for the entire round. Your strong points, or maybe you are able to explain how you played to your strengths while overcoming a challenge, or maybe let's say you have some kind of experience, and you are explaining how you were able to overcome uh, that particular experience using your strengths. So this is also a really good uh, place to like start selling yourself in a good manner. So now that we're done with introduction and resume, then we have DS Algo questions. So under DS Algo questions, the first thing that the company asks is a question on linked lists or trees. So that is because these are really good topics to understand the DS Algo knowledge of the candidate. And while attempting the DS Algo questions, the first thing that you should do is to understand the input type and the output type. Because unless and until you don't know what the input and output is, how else are you going to solve the problem? So that is why your first step should be to understand what the input is and what the output is. Then you should ask clarifying questions to gain more details regarding the question that the interviewer is asking. This is because unlike when we are solving on a coding platform like LeetCode or HackerRank, the question that is being posed by the interviewer is necessarily not complete initially. So it is very much important that we are vocalizing our thought process, and we are asking questions that will help us to clarify the problem and then reduce our solution space. And while you are asking all these questions, it is really important to write everything down on a whiteboard or docs. So normally the coding interview happens on CodePair, or in case of Google, it happens on Google Docs. So just write everything down to clarify your thought process to the interviewer, and also interact frequently with the interviewer. Like, don't when the interviewer has completed the question, completed describing the question, just say that, okay, just give me a minute to understand the question, and then repeat what the interviewer has said. Don't just stay silent and mentally think about the solution. This is because the interviewer will get very confused, and they won't be able to understand what you are thinking and how you're starting with the problem. So it is very important that once the interviewer has finished describing the question, you repeat the question. And this is also helpful in a way, because when you repeat the question, most of the things are become clear to you in your mind. And also when you are speaking the question in your own language, you're able to understand the question better. So that's why it is very important to vocalize your thought process and write everything down on a whiteboard to so that the process becomes clear for you, and you don't need to mentally keep a track of everything. And in this round, the questions that are asked are very specific. So it can be like, like find a path from root to leaf, or maybe find the maximum subarray problem. So like these were some examples, and the problems are really very generic, and they can be found on LeetCode or HackerRank, and they can be easily done under 20 minutes. This is because the interview is for 45 minutes, and they're not going to give you a question that is out of your scope. Like, don't worry about that. Next, we have describe your project. So when you're describing your project, make sure that first you are starting with the problem statement. Like, what was the initial problem that you were asked to solve in your internship or when you started the project. Then what was your approach, and what were the challenges when you got started with this approach? And then what was the journey like when you started working on this problem statement? And finally, when you solved the question or when you solved the problem, what was the impact? So when you divide your description into these following parts, your understanding of like your understanding of your project, and like how you should describe it to the interviewer, becomes very clear, and it also becomes very concise. Because normally when you are describing something, after 1 minute most of the details start to get really fuzzy, and it becomes really hard for the interviewer to keep track of what you are describing. So that's why it is really important to keep your description under 1 minute, and uh, and keep your points really concise. So that's for the project round. Then uh, in the end, after you have to ask one question from your interviewer. So you can ask either one question or two questions, and these questions should be very insightful, and they should be custom made for the company, and you should definitely avoid generic questions, because the moment you ask generic questions, it shows that you are not very much interested in the company, that you have not done some background research prior to the interview, and this also shows how your lack of enthusiasm towards the interview. So your question, when you are done with the interview, it is very much possible that your interviewer must have described themselves, right? That what kind of position they are working in, and how their day-to-day like responsibilities look like. So your question should be based around either that, or they should be something that is very tailor-made for the company. So this will show how interested you are in the role, and this will also help you stand out in comparison of other candidates. And you can also ask something that is that shows that you have some prior knowledge about the company. So this question also plays an important part, like and this is the part that is most underrated normally, because people don't pay very much weightage to HR questions in a technical round. But I think that it shows how culturally fit you are with the company, and how curious you are about the work that is being done by the company. So that is why this part is also equally important with respect to the technical round. Next, we have round three. So this is a technical round. This is the second technical round. So here the introduction strategy is same as before, but instead of specific questions, now you will get open-ended questions around core CS subjects. So it is very much possible that you might be asked like what your favorite subject is, and then they will ask a really open-ended and vague question around it, to test how are you able to approach a very vague problem, and how are you able to identify the constraint, and how are you able to basically reduce the solution space so as to come up with some kind of high level solution. So the solution that you're presenting in an interview need not be very specific, or need not be very much something that you can code on, but in case of open-ended questions, but they should at least display some sort of problem solving ability. So that's why like this is the round that basically checks your thought process. So it is very much important to be completely logical, completely vocalize your thought process, and just write down each and every step in the whiteboard, like at this point you were thinking to solve this, then like in the next step you are going to approach with this kind of solution. So like a flow chart, you can maybe describe your solution. That is one technique. Next, we have puzzles. So these puzzles can be asked either in the first round or in the second round. It completely depends on the company. And these puzzles consist of either, you know, probability, permutation and combination, or either they can have mathematical puzzles. And like these puzzles are to check your problem solving ability in terms of maths, not in terms of coding, but in terms of maths. So they are just checking your knowledge in this part. Then finally, you have to ask some questions from your interviewer. So like I described before, the questions should be extremely insightful and they should be custom made for the company. Now, finally, when we have covered those two technical rounds, then finally we reach to the HR round. So this is the round that is more of a shortlisting round rather than a selection round. This means that it is very much possible that you might be weeded out from the bunch of selected candidates. And this round basically plays around how culturally fit you are in the company and how smart you are, how confident you are with respect to your skills and with respect to your the way you are collaborating with other people. So like in my experience, what I've seen is that first we start with the introduction, and then since I've given it this year, the since the whole placement format was virtual, so we were also asked to explain our solutions that we used in the coding test. And or it is possible that they might ask you to explain the impact of your project, not technically, but they want to understand the social aspect of your project. When we are done with the coding solution and then we are done with the project, they ask you some typical HR questions like, where do you see yourself in next 5 years, or how do you keep yourself motivated, or what are your strengths and weaknesses. So these are some kind of questions that the HR asks in order to understand how confident you are, how smart you are, and how collaborative and inclusive you are with respect to other people, because ultimately you are going to work in a team. So they want to see how collaborative you are and how well do you work with other people. So the questions might revolve around your personality, your future expectations with respect to the role, your leadership skills, and your company knowledge also plays a really important part, because if the HR gets an impression that you don't know much about the company, then there are really good chances that you might be rejected. So it is really important to do some background research prior to this round, and also remain positive. Always remain positive in a HR round, even if the interviewer is going to ask you a trick question like, what do you think are your weaknesses, or describe a experience where you failed. So these are some questions that are in themselves, they are making you speak negatively about yourself, but the key is to remain positive. So always answer these questions in a diplomatic manner. So like one example is that when the interviewer asks you like, what are your weaknesses, so let's say your weakness is that you tend to take too much time on completing a project. So but instead of saying it like this to the interviewer, you can spin it like, I'm a perfectionist, and I tend to I tend to keep my work very perfect, and which is why I take more time uh, than the deadline to complete that work. So in this way, you are able to explain your negative point in a positive manner. So that's why it's really important to maintain some kind of diplomacy in front of the HR. So, and finally, when we have to ask a question from the interviewer. So the strategy remains same. You should avoid generic questions, and your question should be extremely unique in terms of the company. So now that we are done with all the rounds, so congratulations, you have made it to the company. So here we have FANG, off campus experience. So FANG is a very famous acronym that we are commonly seeing on the internet, especially on LinkedIn. And the FANG stands for these famous 5 companies, that is Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Uh, Let me check if anyone has got any questions.
Hi, Shreya.
Hi.
So there are some questions from the audience, and if you want, I can read it to you, or you can view from the chat box, whichever way is comfortable to you.
Okay.
So,
You can.
okay, so there is a question from K. Satyarthi, and he's asking, sometimes questions look easy in the first glance, but actually are a bit difficult when we attempt them. So how do we figure out that how much time should we invest in attempting that question? He's asking.
Okay, so the key to attempting these questions is the questions are labeled as easy, medium, and hard. So naturally, when you are attempting a easy question, it is going to take less time. But these labels won't necessarily work for you. So what you can do is you just give a quick glance to every question and then see. And I think at the first glance, one can judge if they can solve a particular question in a faster manner. So, for one should ideally dedicate the first 5 minutes into reading the questions and then start with the solution. And I don't think that the questions that they are giving in the coding round will be too difficult, because the time given is 90 minutes, and if there are like 3 to 4 questions, they are going to be of easy to medium level. And even in the case of the hard labeled question. So how do we judge that properly? I think it depends from person to person. Like in the first glance, when you are reading the question, it is possible that one question might be from hash map, other might be from linked list. So just see which data structure are they talking about, and on the basis of that, I think you might have some kind of a favorite data structure. Right, so mine is stack. So whenever I see a question on stack, I first try to attempt it, because I know that I will be able to think around the solution quickly. So that is one way. Secondly, when the question when the question is around on strings and arrays, I tend to start with those questions, because I know that these questions are going to require logical thinking, and I'm not going to spend much of my time into implementing that data structure. So if you are using C++, so we have SQL libraries, and therefore we are not going to spend our time into the implementation of that data structure, but we are directly going to use those SQL libraries to implement stack or linked list. So I think on the basis of your favorite topics and on the basis of your favorite data structures, we can maybe judge the questions. I mean, that's how I have done it. But if you have some other opinions around that, I would love to hear them.
Okay, well, a really nice way of answering. And I think, guys, if you have any questions, you all can raise your hands and I will. Okay, so there is a question in the chat box. How does one prepare for MLH? So they are asking you about your experience and how was your preparation for it.
So great question, Akshay. So I have been involved with communities since I think my second year. So I feel that prior community experience, either local or if you're part of a local community, like DSC is a really great community for gaining community experience. And then we have MLSA, then we have GitHub Campus Expert, then we have MLH as global communities. So if you have some kind of prior experience into organizing, into community, or into developer relations, I think that plays a really good part in your selection into becoming a MLH. Let me clear one thing, like this is a volunteer role, this is not a paid position, and one can easily apply for this role on their website. So if my screen is I think my screen is visible, so let me show you on the website. Can you see this website of MLH?
Yes, Shreya, we all can see.
Okay, so here under resources you have this these options like become a mentor, become a coach. So becoming a coach is really difficult. I applied this year and I was rejected in the second round of the interview. So and this is a becoming a coach is a paid position, and becoming a mentor is a volunteer position. So one you can click here, and then you can read all these experiences and the requirements, and then you can sign up here and they will get back to you according to the requirements. I hope that answered your question. uh,
Yes, Shreya. Okay, another question from someone. What all could you just share some tips and tricks, like a short roadmap for preparing for FANG?
right, so I think this totally depends in which year you are in. So the roadmap can differ from person to person according to their year and according to their skills. So if you are in your first year, then it's a really great time to get started with DS Algo, with programming languages. So in the first year, so a generic roadmap I would suggest for beginning is like when you're in your first year, first you can get yourself familiar with one kind of programming language and just stick to that programming language, because companies are not looking for the number of languages that you know, but how proficient you are in one particular language. So in my case I started with C++. So you can I would suggest either go for C++ or Java, because these are the most popular programming languages, and these are really good languages for understanding data structures and algorithm. And I would not suggest Python for this, because while Python is a really good language for competitive programming, it is not so good when we get started with data structures and algorithm. It becomes really difficult in that scenario to understand how these data structures work. So that's why I would suggest either go for C++ or either go for Java. So in first semester, you can dedicate to understand the programming language. Then from second semester, you can start with understanding some basic data structures. So you can start with arrays, strings, bit manipulation. So you can just get started with the fundamentals, and then in like summer vacation, when you have got 2 months of time, free time, in that time you can either maybe you can use YouTube to like gain some deeper knowledge into DSA, or either you can join some kind of course. So like sorry, so like when I was in my first year, I did not had much like understanding of the coding culture and everything. So like during that time I was reading on books like Ballaguru Swami, then Yashwant Kanetkar. So that's how I started learning C and C++. So either you can do that, or you can refer to YouTube for the resources, or either you can join any of the coding institute like coding blocks, pep coding, coding ninjas, for getting better guidance regarding DSA. So I feel that these 2 months are the most crucial months because once college starts, it becomes really difficult to manage college and coding both. So you can assume that in till the like when your second year will get started, your fundamentals around DSA should be strong. So like 6 months are really enough for spending your time in fundamentals. Then your third semester can you can dedicate to solving questions on lead code, hacker rank, code chef, code forces. So personally, during that time, I started with HackerRank because I was a beginner and I was really intimidated by all the questions that were, given on Code Forces and Code Chef. So like I felt that HackerRank is a really has a very beginner friendly UI. So that's why I started, practicing questions on HackerRank. Then later on, I jumped to lead code due to the variety of questions, and I feel that lead code has got a really nice UI and which is kind of intuitive, and I don't need to spend much time on understanding how the platform is working, and I can simply work on my logic to complete the function. So like HackerRank and LeetCode, these are the two platforms that I would suggest in the third semester. Then finally, in the fourth semester, you can learn some kind of development technologies like machine learning, Android, web development, or game development to add some projects in your resume. So in this manner, your 2 years will get over. Then finally, when you have those 2 months prior to the placement season, you can revise all the questions that you have practiced and all the fundamentals that you have studied. Okay, people usually talk through the code during an interview, but what if we are not solving accurately? Okay, I will answer this question after I've explained the roadmap. So in this manner, we have completed our 2 years. Then finally, when the placement season starts in the third year, we can like solve the questions that are given in the coding test, and then we can like understand where we are standing in terms of interview preparation. So like I feel that the summer vacations play a really important part in the preparation, because at that time you get a lot of time to like clearly understand the questions, and maybe you can also at that time yeah, so you can also practice some mock interviews with your friends, or maybe you can also do that on Pramp. So like let me give you the link to that. Pramp. So I've written it in the chat. So this is a really good platform for practicing for mock interviews. So you can do that to understand how you are performing in an interview scenario. Then finally, when the placement season starts, you are all ready to give the exams and ace those interviews. But I would suggest that keep your like continue your learning every day, and like solve around 4 to 5 questions every day, just to keep yourself on tips, and practice the questions that are on lead code. So lead code is one platform that I find really good, and it is highly recommended by Googlers as well. So when I was preparing for my Google interview, so that platform was recommended to me for solving the questions, and it helped me a lot, because I was able to go through the second round of the technical interview. So you can go to like lead code for that. So I feel that when you are in your third year, again you can go deeper into the DSA part and competitive part, and again you can sharpen your skills. You can participate in contests like Kickstart, or then you have hash code. So the competitive like the contest part should come either in the second year or in the third year. That is completely according to your comfort, because initially one should not jump into a contest because it is a because it will lower your confidence and it will demotivate you, and it won't it won't help you in a longer run. So yeah, I think with that we can say that this is a roadmap for the fan companies.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Shreya, for such a detailed explanation. And I hope all of the attendees will able to gain some insights from your advice.
Yeah, hi Shreya, good evening.
Hi.
Hi. What will be the best idea for whiteboarding?
Um, I'm sorry, what?
Uh, best idea for whiteboard coding.
For whiteboard coding, so we have CodePair for that, but you can also use open board. Like, I think I have this app somewhere. Mm, so I use this Microsoft whiteboard to solve the questions. So as you can see, I've performed some kind of calculations here. So either you can use Microsoft Whiteboard, or you can use HackerRank CodePair for the whiteboard part. And I would suggest you to, solve the questions on pen and paper first before jumping onto the coding part. Because, when you are basically what you want to show in the interview is how comfortable you are with the data structures, with the algorithms, and with the whiteboard process. So if you inculcate that the interview process like in your habit, so it becomes really easy for you to become comfortable in an interview, and even if the question is very complex, you are able to solve through the problem. So what I would suggest you is yeah, so Cisco WebEx whiteboard is also good. Yeah, so what I would suggest you every day is whenever you are solving a question, just like if you have if you are comfortable with the fundamentals, then what I would suggest you is like start a timer for 20 minutes. Then so this is a thumb rule, like whenever you're solving an easy question or a medium question, just start a timer for 20 minutes and just see how much time are you dedicating to brainstorming, to code typing, then debugging. So like in this manner you will be able to understand your thought process, how comfortable are you with the interview, how ready you are, and this will also help you analyze your problems and where you need to work and what are your strengths and how to play using your strengths. So like using a timer is a really good technique for preparing for interviews. And for the whiteboard part, what I would suggest you is just use pen and paper if you want to first get comfortable with the dry running process. Then later on, you can switch to the whiteboard like Cisco WebEx or Microsoft Whiteboard, and then you can solve the questions there.
Okay, thank you so much, Shreya, for such a great advice. I hope we all are going to definitely follow those. Okay, so I guess due to the time constraint, we should move ahead with the trees one. And after the session, if there are a few more questions, we will answer them.
Then let's get started with trees. So I hope that everyone is familiar with trees. So trees they are a recursive data structure that contains a set of one or more data nodes, where one node is designated as the root of the tree, while the remaining nodes are called as children of the root. So there are many types of trees as we can see here, but for the interview from the interview perspective, there are only two types of trees that are relevant, that is binary tree and binary search tree. So today I'm going to implement these trees hands on, so I'm going to use REPL for that. So I would suggest you to uh, open your ID and then start coding along with me if you are comfortable with that. So today I'm going to implement first a binary tree, and my binary tree will look something like this. So I have 10, So I hope everyone knows what a binary tree is. If not, let me explain it to you. So a binary tree is a tree that in which every node has got at most two children. So a node can have no children. Those nodes are called leaf nodes. Either they can have one children, or at max they can have two children. And there are no other constraints apart from this. So I'm really bad with the whiteboard part. Don't mind my drawing. Okay, so it should be 50. Then 20, then okay, let's have 30 here. So like the way that I am, constructing a tree right now, that is one way that you can, construct a tree in your interview as well. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show the interviewer what I'm going to construct. So this, I'm going to construct this binary tree. Then 40, 50, then we have 60 here. Then 70 here. Then I have 80. Then 90. Then 100. Then 110. Then 120. So now that I have shown the binary tree that I'm going to implement, uh, how am I going to implement this tree? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Euler form of this tree. So a Euler form is nothing but a tool that we do it in this manner. So we go from 10 to 20 to 40, then we will go to 50, then 80, then 90, then I will go to 30, then 60, then 100, then I will go to 70, then 110, and then 120. So basically, I know it's a very messy diagram, but just follow the mouse, the cursor. So first I will go to 10, then 20, then 40. Then I will turn and then go to 50, then 80. Then again I'm going to turn and then I'm going to go to 90. Then again I will take a turn. So there is a gap between this. I'm not able to draw it because of the space constraint. So after 90, I will go to 30. Then I will go to 60, then 100, then I will go to 70, then 110, then 120. So this is what a Euler form looks like. So I'm going to like create a vector. I hope you all are familiar with vector. If not, then it is a dynamic array that is similar to array, but is much more flexible and easy to use than arrays. So that's what we are going to use today. And in the Euler, then I'm going to explain how we can implement, how we are going to show this Euler form in the form of an array. So our array is going to look something like this. Mm, okay, so vector, and the type of data that I want to introduce into my vector is going to be integer. Then I'm going to name it array. And when I'm going to map this tree into the vector, it is going to look something like this. So first I will have 10, then I will have 20, then I'm going to have 40, and then I will have -1 and -1. Now this is because the 40 is a leaf node. It does not have any left child or a right child. So to represent that it is a leaf node, I'm going to have -1, 2 -1. The first -1 is to denote that the left child of 40 is null, and the second -1 to denote that the right child of 40 is also null. So that's how I'm going to do this. Then I will go to 50. Then I have 80. I hope this is visible. Okay.
Yes, Shreya, it is visible.
Okay. So after 80, again, I will have -1, then -1. Then after 80, I will go to 90. Then again, I will have 2 -1. Then I will go to 30. Then I will go to 60. And then I will go to 100. So this is the part that is important, and I would like all of you to pay attention to understand how I'm creating this vector. So after 100, I'm going back to 60, and I will again write -1. This is because 60 does not have a right child. So that's why I'm going to have -1. Then again, I'm going to 30. Since I've already written 30, so I don't need to write anything for that. Then I have 70. Then I have 110. Again, since it's a leaf node, I'm going to have 2 -1. Then I will go to 120. And again, I'm going to have -1. So this is the vector that I'm going to pass while I'm going to construct the tree. So I hope if this part is not clear, just let me know. Then I will proceed further.
Okay, there is a doubt from Sai Manoj. Sai Manoj, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you say again? Can you repeat in a shorter detail?
Okay. So what I have done is I have created a Euler form of the. I'm basically traversing this tree in a Euler manner. So I would suggest you to look up for Euler tool. Euler. I hope the spelling's correct. If not, I think it will be auto-corrected by Google search. So this is a kind of traversal that we do. And this is actually a very easy way of graphically representing our tree, both in the array form and while we are drawing on the whiteboard. So what we are doing is first we are going to 10, then 20, then 40, then we are going up, and then we are going to 50, then 80, and then again we are going up, and then we are going to 90. Then after traversing 90, again we are going to go up, and since we already have 10, we don't need to write that again. Then we are going to enter 30, then 60, then 100. Then while we are going up, since 60 does not have a right child, I'm going to enter -1 for that. Then again, I'm going, since I have 30, so I'm not going to write it again. Then I'm going to go to 70, then 110, and then 120. So this is form of like a Euler tour. So it's something like this. So first I'm going to 10, then 50, then sorry, 10, 5, then 1, then 6, then 9, 19, then 17. I hope this tour is clear now.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Okay, awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this vector for constructing a binary tree, and later on we will see how to construct a BST. So the first thing that I'm going to do, include vector, because I'm going to use vector for storing my tree. Then I'm going to create a node. I hope you all are familiar with classes. If not, you can check it up later. So in my node, what I want to have is, I want to have one data. Then I want to have a left pointer, and then I want to have a right pointer. And then I'm going to create a constructor in which I'm going to pass a parameter known as value. And I will assign this value to the data member of the node. And I will assign left is equal to right is equal to null. So this part, so I'm going to explain what this part means. So what I have done is, initially I've created the structure for the node. So what I want inside a node is, I want a data to hold, and the type of the data is integer. So this node will contain integers. Then it is going to have a left pointer to point to the left node, and it is going to have a right pointer to point to the right node. And I have created this constructor with a parameter with an argument as int val, so that whenever I'm creating a node, I can pass the value that I want to insert in the node as a argument, and then I can create a node here. So by default, the value that I'm passing will be assigned to the data member, and the left and right pointer of that node will point to null. So that's how I've created my node. Now, so now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a function. So okay, so this is, so first I'm going to create a binary tree, right? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a function called construct. And what I'm going, okay, so I'm going to pass my vector here. So I'm the vector that we created initially in the whiteboard, that I'm going to pass in this function. So vector int r. So I'm going to name it array1, because I'm going to create two arrays, one for the binary tree implementation and next for the binary search tree implementation. And you will see why I have taken two different vectors for that. So I think that's all I would like to pass. Then, okay, so I also want to traverse through the array to access the elements that are present inside the array. So I will initialize a variable idx, and I will assign it 0, so that I can access the array from the 0th position itself. So what I want to do is, I'm going to create a node, and I want it to contain the value of uh, the first part of the first element that is present inside the array. I want that to be passed as an argument for creating this node. That's how I've done this. So now that I've created a node, I want to now create its left child and right child. So node of left, I'm going to create a recursive function here, so that I can automatically create my left subtree and right subtree. So this one is going to recursively call the function and create a left subtree. And similarly, we can do this for the right subtree. So as you can see in recursion, you don't need to worry very much about how the recursion is taking place or how the internals are, internally how the function is working. You just need to assign the left subtree and the right subtree, and the code will automatically take care of the construction part. So that is why trees, the question of trees are normally done using recursion. So now that we have done this, let's create a base case for that, because it's a recursive code, so we need to have a base case. So can anyone tell me what will be the base case? So let me explain the code a bit here if you have not understood it till now. I'm going to pass a vector, the vector that we created earlier in the whiteboard. Then I'm going to traverse it using this index variable. So I'll be able to recursively iterate, recursively create the tree using this array. And I'm going to access the elements that are present inside the array using this idx variable. So now can anyone tell me what will be the base case here? Like what is the condition at which I will have to stop the recursion? If the size of my array is 0, or if I have only null values in my array, in these two conditions, my recursion should stop, because it means that either I have no nodes present in the tree or I have only null present in the tree. That means essentially in both cases, it means that I don't have a valid tree. So in those conditions, I want my recursion to stop, and that is why these two conditions are going to be my base case. So it is going to be something like if idx is equal to r1 dot size minus 1, or if my array contains, okay, it's not idx. So if my array contains null, then I want to first increase the value of idx so that I can access the next element, or I will and then I will just return null. Is this part clear to everyone?
Yeah, I think people are replying in the chat box as well. Yes, Shreya, I think they are understanding the code quite well. And thanks for the hands-on experience. That is actually very intuitive and helpful to all of us.
That's great. So this is the code for constructing the tree. So this is just it. And now that we have constructed, now that we have written the code for construction, we will have to display the code, right? So there are three ways that we can show we can display our tree. Actually, not three, there are four ways. So either we can have a pre-order traversal, post-order traversal, in-order traversal, or level order traversal. So in this code, we are going to see pre-order traversal. So I'm going to create a function name display, which is going to have a type of void. And I'm going to pass root as my parameter. You will see later why I have chosen to pass a node instead of an array. So, okay, so I think I have made one mistake here. Can anyone tell me what's the mistake I made in this code? The type of the function is node star. That means my function should return a node, right? So what I have to add is I have to just add return node. So because I'm creating a tree, and I'm again creating a node for that. So that's what I have to pass here in this function. So now I'm going to write the display function. So I'm going to create a string str, empty string. So this one's going to be an empty string, and then I will. So my output is going to be in the following manner. So first I'm going to have just a sec. I'm going to have left data, then parent node, and then I'm going to have the right child's data. And in case of null child, I'm going to have a dot here. So this is the format in which I'm going to display the tree, so that you can understand for each node, what are the children present. So what I'm going to do is first, since I've passed root, okay, so if the data if my root if the left part of my root is present, then I'm going to use then I'm going to add the value of the data, or the value of the left child in my string. Otherwise, I'm going to add a dot there. So this is a ternary conditional operational statement. I hope you are familiar with this. So since the data that is inside my node is an integer, so I have to convert that integer into a string. So I'm going to use that using the to_string function. So root left, then data. So if the left part of my root is present, then I'm going to add the data of the left node here. Otherwise, I'm going to add a dot. So firstly, I'm going to add the data of the left part. Then similarly, I'm going to do this for the right part, the right child. And in the middle, I'm going to add the value of the roots data. Okay, so I have to use toString for that. Okay, and okay, so I have to also add plus. I have made these arrows to show, to denote clearly the values of the left child and the right child. So once I have inserted all these values in the string, then I'm going to print them and tell, okay. And I want this code to be repeated for the left subtree and for the right subtree. So all I have to do is call this function recursively for the left subtree and for the right subtree. Yeah, so by doing this, we can display our tree. Then here I'm going to create a vector. of typing, and its name is going to be array1. And let's check out the value from the whiteboard. So it is going to have 10, 20, 40. Okay, 10, 20, 40, minus 1. Okay, okay, 10, 20, 40, minus 1, 50, 80. Minus 1, minus 1. Then I will have 90 minus 1. Okay, minus 1, 30, 60, 30, 60, 100. Then again minus 1, then 70, 110, minus 1, okay, minus 1, minus 1, then 120, and minus 1, minus 1. Okay. Now I'm going to create node star root, and I'm going to call this function construct and pass array1 to this. So what I'm essentially doing is, while I have constructed the tree, while I've called this function construct, what I want to do is, when this function will return the node, I want to store the address of this whole tree inside this root, so that when I want to display the tree, I can simply pass root for displaying the tree. So let's run this code and see if it's working. Okay, so there's a segmentation fault. Okay, I have not included the string library here. Okay. So I have not added the base condition. So let's say if I don't have any root, then I will have to return, yeah. I think this should work.
I would like to take an opportunity to place our record on our hearty thanks to Shreya for teaching us trees in such a fun and amazing manner and answering all our doubts with so much detailed explanation. We all had a great time having you here with us, Shreya. Thank you. And also, I would like to extend my thanks to DAC MUJ for such enormous cooperation in the organization of this event.
And also, like in my presentation, I've also shared some resources. These are all free, for so that you can, practice all the DSA questions and also learn about these algorithms and data structures in a much more fun and easy manner. So these are some of the resources. Okay. Akshay, if it's okay with you, I would like to explain this point.
Sure.
Okay, awesome. So now that we have seen how to implement tree, so implementing a base tree is also not difficult. We just have to create one more function, and we have to pass a sorted array. So in this code, all you have to do is you have to, in place of this type of array, we have to just pass a sorted array, because of course it's a binary search tree. That means it is going to work on a sorted array. So once we do that, we need to pass 3 parameters. We need to pass one array, we need to pass the starting index, and we need to pass the ending index. So it's for BST. I will just comment it here. So the parameter will be something like R2, 0 because our starting index is going to be 0. Then R2 dot size -1. So this is the parameter. This is how we are going to call the function. And I will just tell you the changes that we have to make in this. So instead of this part, we are going to have this. If SI, that means the starting index, is greater than the ending index, then return null. Okay, so this is going to be a base condition, and all we have to do is you have to find out a mid, that is SI plus EI divided by 2. And then we have to create a node. Like this part is same, pretty much same, except we have to pass mid here. So it will be the mid value of the array. Then we have to construct the left part using array1, array2, comma, it is very similar to the binary search that we do in our normal array questions, right? So all we have to do is first we will construct the left tree. So for the left tree, we are going to have the starting index. So it is going to be something like, for left, it is going to be R2, comma, SI, comma, mid -1. So that's how we are going to create our left subtree. And then for the right subtree, we are going to have R2, comma, mid +1, then the ending index. So I will write all these code here after the session so that you can understand how to make a BST using the same concept. So that's all the change that you have to make here. The questions that are based on trees are relatively very straightforward as compared to other data structures. So all you have to do is you have to understand that in which category is the problem falling into. Is it a DFS question or is it a BFS question? So if you are not familiar with these kind of traversals, so there are mainly two kind of traversals that we can perform while traveling a tree. So we have DFS, in which we are, recursively just following a particular path until we reach the leaf node. And then we have BFS, where we are traversing the tree breadth-wise. So it is going to look something like this. If I am, applying DFS in this tree, I'm going to do this, then this, then this. So basically I'm following a particular path until I reach the leaf node. But in BFS, the situation is exactly opposite. Here I'm traversing the tree in a breadth-wise manner. So first I'm going to traverse this level 0, then I'm going to traverse level 1, then I'm going to traverse level 2, then I'm going to traverse level 3. So that's how we traverse the trees. And one thing you must have noticed is that in DFS, if we have a solution towards the leaf node, because our traversal is starting from the leaf node, in case when our solution is very far from the root and is nearer to the leaf nodes, in those cases, applying DFS makes sense, because it is going to, of course, give you a solution in faster time. And in cases when our solution is not far from the root of the tree, let's say we want to find the shortest path between two nodes, or let's say we want to find the neighboring nodes of a particular node. So in those cases, we apply BFS. And in DFS, we require extra space when the tree is less balanced. So if, let's say, a tree is very skewed in the sense that we have, let's say, a very long path. So this path is going endlessly till here. So in that case, the function overhead will be much more, because we have to since we are recursively, traveling this path. So we will have to, like call the function more number of times, and therefore this will require more space. Yeah, so when our tree has very large, a very long path, in that case DFS is not really important. Not important, I would say. It's not advised. So in case of deep paths, we don't use DFS, and in case of balanced trees, so let's say if the width of the tree is too much, then of course our BFS code will take too much space. So in those cases, we don't apply BFS. And I can explain this with this example. So let's say that if we have a generic tree, so in a generic tree, we have n number of children per node. So let's say we have like 3 nodes, then 4 nodes, then so on. So the width of the tree will become too much, right? And in BFS, since we store all the children of a particular node, let's say if we are at 10, so we are going to store 20, 30, then all the nodes that are present at this level. So it will ultimately cause memory problem because we have a lot of nodes present at one time. So that's why extra space is used when the tree is more balanced. Then our DFS code is typically recursive, and not typically recursive, I would say it's always recursive. Although we can use iterative code as well, but iteration is definitely not recommended when we are solving tree-based problems. Then when we have BFS, it uses iteration. This is because we use a queue as a data structure for storing all the values of the children. And in DFS, we use stack for for storing all the function call overheads. Then DFS is normally used for game situations. So whenever you have a question that is based on, let's say, snake and ladders, or on a game. So whenever you have a question of games and you see that it is very much like a tree data structure, just don't think anything, just apply DFS, because DFS what it does is it searches for all the possible solution in the when in a given range of choices. So let's say if we have one, let's say if I am at this position and now I go to this position. Now I want to explore all the possibilities of my next step, right? So for doing that, we use DFS. But that is not possible in BFS because it is only going to give me the nearest paths or the shortest path between the current step and the next step. So that's why it is used for finding the neighbor nodes in peer-to-peer networks like GPS systems or social networking sites, or the most common problem in Google Maps, when you want to find a shortest distance from your current location to a particular location. So if you don't know about it, Google Maps use Dijkstra's algorithm for that. So that's how it is used to find the shortest path between two places. So these are some of the different trade-offs that one needs to keep in mind while deciding when to use BFS or when to use DFS. So I hope that was clear to you. If not, you can ask me. And these are some of the resources that I would recommend to one can go through. So this is visualgo.net. So this is a really good website for visualizing the algorithms graphically. Then you have pep coding. So right now, as you all know, pep coding has been uploading all their foundation and level up resources for free on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. So you can do that. Then for practicing tree questions for interviews, you have tree archives and you have binary tree archives. So these are really good, resources for practicing tree questions. Then these are some of my personal favorite, like Tech Dose, then Kevin Norton, then Nick White. So these are the people. These are the people that I followed in my interview preparation journey, and this is the book that I used, and I still use it for preparing for my technical interviews. So this is the cracking the coding interview, and I have a hard book for this. Like I never really got a ebook link for this, so I was not able to mention it here. But I feel that if you search for it and take some time, maybe you can get a ebook for this. Then this is these two resources are some of the few resources that was recommended by Google when I was preparing for my Google interview. So Googlers, so whenever you are shortlisted for a Google interview, the recruiter gives you some set of resources to prepare to help you prepare for the interview. So these are some, so this one, two, three, these were the resources that were given to me, and there were other resources as well, but I felt that they were since publicly available on YouTube, so I thought that it would be really unnecessary to mention them here again.
So I think we all don't have much of the questions right now. And as of now, I can all say that thank you so much for such awesome explanation and the content you provided to us. I'm sure those slides took a lot of effort in preparation, and the way you explained the hands-on coding was actually quite good for me, because I'm a third year student and I can see your achievements and actually make a list of, okay, I should also do these things and prepare for them. And definitely we all feel so obliged that you took out some time and explained all of these things in such an efficient manner. And thank you so much, Shreya, for giving your time to us. Okay.
Thank you, Akshay, Kashish, and everyone from DSC Manipal University, Jaipur, for inviting me to this amazing event and giving me the opportunity to speak and share my experiences, my knowledge. And also, it was fun. It was a great experience interacting with you all and getting to know you all. So, I would like to thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you so much, ma'am.